The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for more than 70,000 years. Their territory spanned thousands of inhabited systems, bound together by ancient hyperspace corridors and enforced by fleets so vast they darkened suns. Entire civilizations rose and fell under their watch, and no external threat had ever truly challenged their dominance. To them, the galaxy was stable, predictable, and firmly under control. So when humanity first appeared on their long-range sensors, it barely registered as noteworthy. A minor species from an unremarkable yellow star, possessing limited interstellar capability and modest energy signatures. Their ships were functional rather than elegant, their engineering practical rather than impressive. They lacked the grand designs, colossal constructs, and symbolic architecture that defined mature galactic powers. By imperial standards, they were insignificant, which made their first transmission all the more baffling. It was not a greeting. It was not a diplomatic request. It was a warning. We have detected a transdimensional anomaly moving toward the galactic core. Its projected trajectory intersects 47 imperial sectors. Estimated time to impact, 8 standard cycles. Probability of total extinction event, 99.98%. The High Council reacted with amusement. Several elders exchanged dismissive gestures. One allowed himself a brief laugh. Another leaned back in his levitating throne, antennae flicking in mild irritation. Primitive paranoia, one counselor said. Their sensors likely misinterpreted background radiation. They seek attention, another added. Fear is a universal language among lesser species. Yet the humans continued to transmit. They sent complex mathematical models, gravitational distortion maps, energy flow diagrams, and predictive simulations based on dimensional physics no known species had successfully applied at that scale. Their projections showed entire star systems vanishing, their matter and energy stripped into nothing, their existence erased. They showed evidence of similar phenomena detected beyond the galactic rim, regions where space-time itself appeared scarred, twisted, and consumed. Human scientists called the approaching entity the devourer between dimensions. An ancient extra-dimensional predator that did not merely destroy matter, but fed upon reality itself. According to their calculations, it had already erased multiple galaxies. Their conclusion was stark. No known empire could withstand it. The High Council reviewed the data and rejected it. Officially, they declared the findings speculative, unsupported by imperial science, and alarmist. The humans were advised to focus on stabilizing their own limited territory and refrain from spreading unnecessary panic. Privately, however, a handful of imperial researchers were unsettled. The data was too precise. The predictive models aligned disturbingly well with subtle anomalies already present in imperial sensor logs. Gravitational drift patterns that had been previously dismissed as cosmic noise suddenly formed coherent vectors when overlaid with human projections. A junior astrophysicist, poring over the numbers late into his rest cycle, realized something chilling. The humans weren't speculating. They were calculating. Their models assumed extinction as the baseline outcome, and worked backward from survival. Such thinking was foreign to the Empire. For millennia, imperial science had focused on optimization, efficiency, and comfort. Their civilization had known stability for so long that catastrophe had become theoretical, something studied rather than feared. Humanity, by contrast, had evolved under constant existential threat. Asteroid impacts, ice ages, supervolcanoes, pandemics, nuclear brinkmanship, environmental collapse. Each era of their history was scarred by near extinction. Survival was not an abstract concept to them. It was a lived experience, encoded into their culture, psychology, and science. But warnings meant nothing without authority. And humanity had none. The Empire continued its expansion. Colonization fleets pushed deeper into unexplored sectors. Terraforming engines reshaped barren worlds. Trade lanes thickened with traffic. Life across imperial space continued in confident routine. Meanwhile, humanity returned home. They did not argue. They did not protest. They prepared. Across human-controlled systems, dormant megastructures activated. Planetary manufacturing arrays began operating at maximum output. Orbital construction yards assembled fleets at unprecedented speed. Entire planetary crusts were hollowed to house vast subterranean cities and survival vaults. Evacuation protocols long buried in classified archives were quietly enacted. Generational ships, designed centuries earlier for hypothetical disasters, were refitted and mobilized. Mobile habitats capable of sustaining billions drifted into deep space, far from gravitational anchors. Planetary defense systems were layered upon each other in recursive redundancy. If one failed, another would activate. If that failed, 3 more would follow. Every contingency was planned for. Because to humanity, extinction was never theoretical. It was expected. 8 cycles later, the first Imperial star system vanished. There was no explosion. No supernova. No radiation burst. One moment, the system existed. The next, it didn't. Sensors detected a perfect absence. No mass, no energy, no gravitational signature. A region of absolute null where a sun and its planets had once orbited. Imperial Command initially assumed sensor malfunction. Then a second system disappeared. Then a third. Then 5 more in rapid succession. Entire trade routes collapsed as navigational beacons simply ceased to exist. Communication relays went dark mid-transmission. Billions died without warning, their final moments never recorded. Panic spread through Imperial space. Emergency sessions were convened. Long-range observatories were recalibrated. Military fleets scrambled toward the affected sectors. What they saw froze even the most hardened admirals. Space itself was folding inward. Stars dimmed and collapsed into nothing. Planets elongated, distorted, and dissolved. Entire systems were swallowed by expanding regions of non-existence, their reality consumed by something that did not obey physical law. The anomaly had arrived. And it was accelerating. Imperial analysts overlaid human predictions onto live sensor feeds. The alignment was nearly perfect. Every disappearance occurred within projected time windows. Every trajectory matched calculated paths. The humans had been right. Desperation replaced arrogance. The High Council reopened humanity's archived transmissions. Warnings once mocked were now studied with frantic intensity. Emergency evacuation orders were issued across dozens of core sectors, but logistics collapsed under the sheer scale of panic. There was only one remaining option. They turned to the species they had ignored. A priority diplomatic envoy was dispatched at maximum velocity, bearing unrestricted access codes and absolute authority. Its destination was the Sol system, the last hope of an empire that had just learned the true meaning of extinction. The Imperial envoy arrived in the Sol system expecting chaos. They found order. Orbital space was locked down with layered defense formations, each one interwoven with the next in perfect synchronization. Thousands of human vessels moved in disciplined patterns, their trajectories forming shifting geometric lattices that reinforced gravitational stability and sensor clarity. Massive platforms, each the size of small moons, hovered at strategic points, radiating energy signatures far beyond anything humanity had previously displayed. Earth itself was encased in overlapping planetary shields, powerful enough to bend incoming cosmic radiation and absorb direct stellar flares. Entire fleets orbited in silent readiness. There was no panic. No confusion. Only preparation. The Imperial ambassador transmitted immediate clearance codes and was granted access to a human command platform positioned at the edge of the system. Inside, human officers moved with calm efficiency, monitoring vast tactical displays that showed not only Imperial territory, but regions far beyond known space. "You seem unsurprised," the ambassador stated. The human fleet commander regarded him evenly. "We have been expecting you." The ambassador hesitated. "Your projections were correct. Multiple Imperial sectors have collapsed. Our defenses have failed to slow the anomaly." The human nodded once. "We know. Our models predicted the acceleration phase." "Then why are you still here?" the ambassador demanded. Why haven't you evacuated? We are evacuating, the commander replied. But we are also holding. At a gesture, the tactical displays expanded. Thousands of human evacuation vessels streamed outward from settled systems, each capable of sustaining millions. Artificial habitats unfolded in deep space, activating life support networks and gravitic stabilization fields. Entire colonies lifted from planetary surfaces and began slow relocation toward pre-selected refuge zones. Simultaneously, human battle groups repositioned along calculated interception corridors, forming a living barrier between the anomaly's projected path and the inner galactic regions. You built all of this in secret? The ambassador whispered. No, the commander corrected. We built it in anticipation. Beyond Sol, the first human fleets engaged. Imperial observers watched through shared sensor feeds as space twisted violently ahead of advancing task forces. Regions of distorted reality shimmered, marking the edges of the approaching entity. Human ships plunged into these zones without hesitation, deploying gravitational stabilizers and dimensional anchors that forced fractured space back into coherent structure. Where Imperial fleets had failed to hold even seconds, human formations held minutes. Then hours. Energy lances fired, composed of compressed gravitational waves capable of warping spacetime. Reality-stabilizing fields pinned the anomaly's outer layers, preventing instantaneous consumption of entire systems. For the first time, the Devourer slowed. But it did not retreat. It adapted. Imperial scientists watched in horror as the entity altered its structure in response to each attack. Energy flows reorganized. Dimensional membranes thickened. Regions of collapsed physics reformed in unpredictable patterns. Human tactical systems recalculated continuously, shifting formations in near real time. Where one approach failed, 3 new ones replaced it. Entire human squadrons vanished in violent flashes of distorted space, consumed when containment fields collapsed. No distress calls escaped. No survivors returned. Yet more ships took their place. Always more. Imperial admirals struggled to comprehend the scale of human commitment. You are losing entire fleets, one transmitted. Why do you continue? The response was immediate. Because we plan to. Human battle doctrine assumed catastrophic loss as a baseline. Their fleet compositions included projected casualty thresholds. Their manufacturing systems were already replacing destroyed vessels at a pace that stunned Imperial engineers. For humanity, sacrifice was not an unfortunate consequence. It was a calculated necessity. As the anomaly advanced, human defensive lines bent but did not break. Each engagement bought time, minutes, hours, days, allowing deeper evacuations, greater construction, and broader strategic deployment. Imperial worlds fell by the hundreds. Human worlds did not. Every human colony lay behind overlapping layers of dimensional stabilization and gravity manipulation arrays. Entire planetary systems were shifted slightly out of standard space-time alignment, rendering them partially inaccessible to the Devourer's consumption mechanics. It was a risky maneuver. One miscalculation could tear a planet apart. Yet human engineers executed it with surgical precision. The Empire began to understand. Human technology had not been built for expansion. It had been built for survival. Across Imperial space, panic gave way to desperate hope as human fleets arrived. Stabilization grids flared into existence around endangered systems. Evacuation corridors opened where none had existed. Entire populations were relocated under human command protocols, their movements guided with chilling efficiency. Human coordination dwarfed anything the Empire possessed. Their logistics networks adapted in real time. Their supply chains reconfigured themselves dynamically. Their production facilities shifted priorities without human input, guided by predictive AI models designed for disaster response optimization. And always, the humans stayed ahead of the anomaly. Barely. Then came the shock. Imperial long-range sensors detected a sudden surge. The Devourer altered course. Instead of continuing its predictable trajectory toward the galactic core, it veered toward the densest concentration of human activity. It had identified the greatest resistance. It was hunting the humans. Alarm rippled across every shared command channel. Human tactical displays recalculated instantly. Projected survival odds dropped below 20%. For the first time, Imperial commanders witnessed hesitation flicker across human faces. Then it vanished. The fleet commander issued a single order. Execute Phase Omega. Deep within human-controlled space, ancient construction arrays activated. Facilities sealed for centuries roared to life. Energy flows spiked beyond previously recorded thresholds. Across thousands of systems, dormant structures unfolded, revealing the skeleton of something far larger than any single battle fleet. Imperial analysts stared at the emerging data. A megastructure of unprecedented scale was assembling at the gravitational heart of human space. Its purpose was unmistakable. Humanity was not merely trying to delay extinction. They were preparing to confront it. Directly. Construction accelerated beyond anything the Galactic Empire had ever witnessed. Across human space, fabrication arrays consumed entire asteroids, gas giants, and even small stars, converting raw mass directly into structured matter through controlled matter-energy conversion. Vast rings of alloy and exotic materials expanded outward, locking into place with mathematical precision. Gravitational stabilizers flared, anchoring the growing structure against the strain of its own mass. At the center of it all, the Aegis Array took form. A planetary-scale lattice of interlocking dimensional anchors, gravity cannons, and reality stabilization fields, its purpose singular, forced the universe itself to hold together long enough to kill what should not exist. Imperial engineers studied the designs in stunned silence. "This violates at least 12 known physical laws," one whispered. A human scientist nodded. "That's why it works." "You built this in secret?" "We designed it in secrecy," the scientist corrected. "We began construction once we confirmed the anomaly's approach. 2 centuries ago." The admission stunned the Empire. "You've known for 200 years?" "Yes." "Then why wait?" "We weren't waiting," the human replied calmly. "We were preparing." Human history was not a tale of uninterrupted progress. It was a chronicle of survival. From their earliest civilizations, extinction had loomed as a constant possibility. Their planet was volatile. Their star unstable. Their environment unforgiving. Ice ages reshaped continents. Asteroids nearly sterilized their biosphere. Supervolcanoes darkened skies for decades. Plagues decimated populations. Wars threatened global annihilation. Each disaster had carved caution into their collective consciousness. Where other species built for prosperity, humans built for collapse. Every major human city contained subterranean shelters capable of sustaining life for centuries. Every major colony possessed independent power, food, and manufacturing systems. Their data networks were decentralized to prevent single-point failure. Their infrastructure assumed sabotage, catastrophe, and systemic breakdown as routine operational risks. They did not believe in permanence. They believed in continuity. The Aegis Array was the ultimate expression of that philosophy. Its activation would temporarily impose stable physical constants across a region of space large enough to trap the Devourer. Within that enforced reality, the anomaly would be forced to exist under rules it could be harmed by. The cost would be enormous. Energy expenditure equivalent to igniting multiple stars. Structural stress capable of tearing planets apart. Dimensional backlash that could permanently destabilize nearby systems. Human projections placed survival odds at less than 40%. They activated it anyway. As the Devourer surged forward, space warped violently around it. Regions of reality collapsed, reforming in twisted geometries that shredded conventional fleets. Human formations retreated in precise patterns, funneling the entity directly toward the growing megastructure. The moment it crossed the array's outer boundary, the universe changed. Space snapped into rigid coherence. Dimensional turbulence froze. Energy flows stabilized. For the first time, the Devourer became fully real. It screamed across spectra no sensor had ever detected, its form convulsing as the array pinned its existence into fixed coordinates. Human fleets attacked immediately. Gravitational lances pierced its outer membranes, collapsing layers of hyperdimensional mass. Reality anchors locked onto its core, preventing escape. Entire stars, converted into directed energy beams, hammered its structure with sustained force. The entity thrashed. Entire squadrons vanished as containment fields overloaded. Spatial fractures tore through formations, erasing ships mid-maneuver. Casualties climbed into the millions. Human command never faltered. Automated manufacturing systems replaced destroyed fleets in real time. Evacuation algorithms rerouted populations with machine precision. Damage control drones swarmed ruptured structures faster than Imperial crews could even detect failures. The battle stretched into weeks. The Devourer adapted repeatedly, restructuring itself in response to each assault. Human systems countered with equally rapid innovation, rewriting targeting matrices, recalibrating weapons, and altering gravitational harmonics. It became a contest of adaptation. One side evolved through ancient instinct, the other through relentless engineering. Imperial observers watched in awe and terror. They had believed humans primitive. Now they saw a species that had weaponized survival itself. The Aegis array began to fracture under the strain. Entire segments glowed white-hot as energy loads exceeded theoretical limits. Dimensional shear forces threatened to tear the structure apart. Human engineers diverted power from evacuated colonies, sacrificing entire systems to maintain stabilization. "We can't hold much longer," one transmitted. Human command issued a final directive. Collapse the core. All remaining fleets converged. Every operational weapon discharged simultaneously. Gravitational fields compressed the Devourer's dimensional heart, forcing it inward. Reality anchors tightened, collapsing layered existence into a singular focal point. The entity fought back with catastrophic force, unleashing waves of spatial distortion that annihilated entire battle groups. Human casualties surged beyond previous projections. Still, the assault continued. Then, with a final synchronized strike, the Devourer's core destabilized. Its structure imploded inward, collapsing into a self-contained singularity of negative dimensional mass. In a fraction of a second, it vanished. Not destroyed. Contained. Sealed beyond observable reality. Silence spread across the battlefield. Energy flows stabilized. Dimensional turbulence faded. For the first time in weeks, space became quiet. The galaxy still existed. Human fleets drifted in damaged formations, many reduced to scattered fragments and debris. Entire sectors lay dark, their stars extinguished, their populations lost. But extinction had been stopped. The Galactic Empire stared at the aftermath in stunned disbelief. They had not merely been saved. They had been outmatched in every conceivable way. Humanity had not defeated the Devourer through superior numbers or ancient inheritance. They had done it through preparation, through relentless planning, through the refusal to assume survival. And as human systems began emergency repairs, their sensors already turned outward once more, scanning the void beyond the galactic edge, the Empire finally understood. This was not humanity's first extinction-level event. It was simply the first one the galaxy had witnessed. In the aftermath, the galaxy struggled to comprehend what had happened. Entire Imperial sectors lay silent, their stars extinguished, their worlds reduced to drifting debris. Trade routes that had existed for tens of thousands of years ended abruptly in empty void. Civilizations vanished without leaving echoes. The Galactic Empire, once unshakable, now stood scarred, diminished, and humbled. And humanity was still standing. Human fleets withdrew methodically, pulling back damaged vessels, stabilizing fractured systems, and restoring disrupted space-time corridors. Their evacuation armadas continued relocating survivors, not only human, but Imperial citizens as well. Entire alien populations found refuge within human-controlled habitats, sustained by infrastructure designed for disasters far beyond conventional scale. No tribute was demanded. No territory claimed. No authority asserted. Human commanders declined imperial offers of political alliance, territorial concessions, and economic dominance. "We didn't save the galaxy to rule it," their representatives stated. "We saved it so it could continue." The Empire had no answer to that. In emergency sessions that followed, imperial scholars re-examined human history in detail. Records once skimmed were now studied obsessively. What they found reshaped galactic understanding of civilization itself. Humanity's greatest achievements had never been its cities, its art, or its technological marvels. It had been its ability to endure. Their civilizations rose knowing they might fall. Their technologies advanced assuming failure. Their governance systems planned for collapse, revolt, disaster, and extinction-level threats as routine considerations. Where other species optimize for comfort and stability, humans optimize for resilience. They did not believe survival was guaranteed. They believed it had to be earned, again and again. Imperial academies began teaching human strategic doctrine. Students studied evacuation algorithms, disaster prediction matrices, redundant infrastructure networks, and human psychological conditioning against panic. A new discipline emerged in imperial science: existential engineering, the human method of designing civilization around worst-case scenarios. Within decades, imperial infrastructure changed. Star systems were rebuilt with layered redundancies. Core worlds constructed planetary shelters. Trade routes developed emergency dispersal corridors. Energy networks adopted human-style decentralization. The Empire was no longer preparing to thrive. It was preparing to survive. Humanity had altered galactic philosophy itself. Yet humans did not linger in imperial space. Their fleets returned to their systems, repairing damaged habitats, rebuilding shattered planets, and reconstructing megastructures lost in the battle. The Aegis array, though heavily damaged, remained operational, its core stabilizers continuing to enforce local physical constants. Human scientists refused to deactivate it. Extinction events rarely travel alone, they warned. Beyond the galactic edge, long-range human sensors extended into deep intergalactic void, scanning for anomalies, distortions, and dimensional fractures. Entire research divisions dedicated themselves to early detection of existential threats, probing regions no civilization had ever dared observe. They built faster ships, stronger shields, more powerful weapons. Not for conquest, but for inevitability. The Galactic Empire sent repeated diplomatic missions, seeking deeper alliance, technological exchange, even permanent military integration. Humanity agreed only to shared early warning systems and mutual evacuation protocols. They would not become guardians. They would not become rulers. They would remain watchers. Because humans understood something no empire ever had. The universe does not care who rules. It only tests who survives. Over time, stories of the Devourer faded into legend. Among younger generations, the war became myth, its horrors softened by distance and peace. Yet one phrase endured across cultures and species. "When humans warn you, listen." In imperial space, monuments rose to commemorate the lost. Entire constellations were renamed in honor of vanished civilizations. And on countless worlds, children learned of the day reality itself nearly ended, saved not by ancient powers or divine intervention, but by a species that had grown up fearing extinction. Humanity became known by many titles: the Watchers, the Survivors, the Architects of Endurance. But the name that endured most was the simplest: the Sentinels of Extinction. They were the ones who stood at the edge of existence, staring into the dark, prepared to fight what others could not even imagine. And still, they prepared. Because human history had taught them a brutal truth. There is always another disaster. There is always another threat. There is always another ending waiting to begin. So they built. They trained. They watched. In the silent depths beyond known space, human probes drifted through intergalactic void, scanning for the faintest distortions. Their instruments listened for echoes of impossible physics, searching for signs of entities older than galaxies, hungrier than black holes, more patient than time itself. They found anomalies. Not immediate threats, but possibilities. And to humanity, possibility was reason enough. Across their worlds, children studied disaster science alongside mathematics, survival engineering alongside history, strategic planning alongside art. They were taught not to fear the universe, but to respect it. Because fear paralyzes. Preparation empowers. And somewhere, far beyond the furthest reach of light, something stirred. Human sensors recorded the fluctuation. Human systems logged the data. Human strategists began new projections. Because extinction, to humanity, was not a singular event. It was a recurring challenge. One they fully intended to keep beating. Again. And again. And again.